So we've done a lot of poking around inside the NES. Now we understand how to search for memory addresses, and we understand a little bit about how it's formatted and how it's put together. But that's just the data. I mean, there's a lot more to a game, like the graphics and the sound. What I want to explain now is level editing. I take absolutely no credit for discovering any of this work, or even the cheat code stuff. All I'm really doing is explaining to you guys stuff that I already do, that I picked up from other people's work, and part of what I like to consider a community. So there's a whole community out there of people who disassemble NES games and then completely redo them. They redo the sounds, they redo the graphics, they redo the levels, and you have a whole new game. So basically you're using the original programming kind of like as a graphics engine or a code engine, and then just kind of reworking everything. The number one game that I think has been hacked absolutely the most has to be Super Mario Bros. 3. If you saw the first segment on my NES lobotomizing, I explained that there are levels, entire levels and graphics and sprites and whatnot in the game Super Mario Bros. 3 for NES that were completely unused, and they were unfinished, completely unaccessible, unless you went into the game and you fiddled with its insides until you got it to work. There's a lot of tools that you can use for reverse engineering or decompiling and disassembling games to get the graphics out of it. There's a lot of stuff you can use to go and rework it. Unfortunately, a lot of it's in DOS, and I can't do screen captures of DOS or a Linux command window. So I'm just going to have to explain it to you, and you're going to have to take me on good faith. So we're going to go to the computer side, and I'll show you a couple of great websites that will get you started. If you've ever played a game like SimCity or Command & Conquer, you really should be able to get these level editors done, pretty easily. I mean, it's not that hard. It's pretty much point and click. You do have to have a little bit of understanding of how the game's put together when it comes to entry points and exit points, but if you've been poking around the memory addresses and you have an understanding about that, that's great. Depending on how far you want to go into editing, I mean, you can do stupid little things like, take Mario's hat off, or, have Phallus running around instead of Goombas, or you can go as far as completely reprogramming how the entire game works, making entire new worlds, making entire new levels, making an entire new storyline. So, go to the computer side and we'll do a little bit of explaining. The MushroomKingdom.net has to be the place for information about hacking Super Mario Bros. 3. Now, there were a couple of other forums and boards, but they've seemed to go down, so I'm not even going to bother mentioning them. On this website, they mention the lost levels, saying, within the game, there are lost enemies and lost sprites, whole levels that have been unfinished, which I'll show you a little bit later. They also give you a lot of information about how the game goes together, like here's some unused sprites for bonus games and translations. They even tell you how to get into debug menus using Game Genie codes, which is, if you're watching this, you're familiar with poking around memory addresses. And they give you a lot of great information. If you're really interested in this, I'd highly recommend looking over their website. They've got a lot of good stuff, but basically they use tools that are freely available on the internet, like level editors, which I'd like to explain. Zophar's domain has to be one of the best repositories for emulators, tools, utilities, whole 9 yards. If you go in their NES section, they have level editors, and they've got a lot. I mean, they've really got a lot of level editors. If a game was relatively popular, there's a level editor for it. I mean, they got Final Fantasy, Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Brothers, Mega Man series. They've got a lot. And these are just some of the things that you could use just as level editors. I mean, you can go in there and use some emulators directly, but like I said, those run in a DOS environment and I can't do screen captures, so figure it out. Once you have a level editor, you have to have an understanding of how the game works, and if you've been lobotomizing your NES and poking around memory addresses, you should have a little bit of an understanding. However, Google searches never killed anyone, so I'd highly suggest that. You can go to romhacking.net. They have a search engine for like level editors and utilities and whatnot, but I prefer Zophar's domain in Google. There's nothing wrong with these guys. It's just I feel they're just a little half-assed, but it works. Lincoln Soft has
Mario Improvement 3, which has to be the leading tool for level editors when it comes to Mario Brothers 3. I'd love to show you how it works, but it runs in DOS. Don't blame me. Sorry. I would highly suggest if you want to get into level editing from Super Mario Brothers 3, this is the tool to use. I've used it. It's great. It works beautifully. Matter of fact, this was the tool used by the Mushroom Kingdom, the website, not the actual Mushroom Kingdom in the game. Duh. Anyway, this was the tool used by the Mushroom Kingdom website and people on there to reverse engineer the actual game's graphics and find what they call the lost levels and a whole bunch of hidden sprites and graphics. Okay, as I promised, I'd show you guys how to access the lost levels. Now, please, like I've said, I take absolutely no credit for this work whatsoever. I'm just following the footsteps of people greater than myself, because I have absolutely no idea how hard it was to do this. I don't think I could ever do it myself. Okay, you're obviously going to need an emulator, and my emulator for PC of choice is NES 10. It's a great little emulator. Unfortunately, it never made it out of beta because the project leaders moved on to a better NES emulator, but really, I don't think it gets any better than this. It supports everything for NES except Light Gun. It's easy to use, it's stable, and the minimum requirements is a 200 MHz or 266 MHz MMX CPU. So you can run it on damn near anything as long as you're running in a Win32 environment. You're also going to need an IPS patcher. You might be familiar with IPS patches. Basically, someone will create an IPS file which will apply certain pokes and prods and adjustments to a specific file. So basically, an IPS file will make changes to a specific file in a specific way. No matter the platform, no matter the operating system, no matter what you're running, it will make those changes to that file, specifically how it was designed. And of course, you're going to need the Super Mario Brothers 3 Lost Levels IPS patch, which you can get from the Mushroom Kingdom. Sorry, and you're going to need an original Super Mario Brothers 3 ROM. I'm not telling you where to get that. Use Google. Okay, so we're going to load up the Super Mario Brothers 3 just to verify that, you know, here's Super Mario Brothers 3. Okay. And apparently Cam Studio is taking a lot of load off my CPU. Okay. It's running slow because my computer's working hard because I'm doing the recording. But here, Super Mario Brothers 3. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, go and Google IPS Win if you have Windows. It's a Windows-based IPS patcher. Duh. File to patch. It's pretty simple. We want to patch Super Mario Brothers 3 with the Super Mario Brothers 3 Lost Levels IPS. I think it's a good idea to make a backup copy. I like to log because I'd like to know what's going on. We patch it. It's done. Now our Super Mario Brothers 3 has the adjustments that the Super Mario Brothers 3 Lost Levels IPS patch will do. Now, I'm sorry, this is going to run like crap, but deal with it. See, and notice how the game is completely different because of that IPS patch. Okay, well, there you go, the Lost Level. You can go and get the IPS patch from the Mushroom Kingdom's website. You can use Google to figure out where to get the Super Mario Brothers 3 ROM file. You put the two together, and you can access the Lost Levels. Or you can use Mario Improvement 3 to go and access the Lost Levels your damned self, and completely rework the graphics in the game however you see fit. I'd also like to state that the Mushroom Kingdom website also has reworked games. You can actually use Google to find completely new versions of Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 1, Legend of Zelda, Mega Man. A whole bunch of great games that people have changed the graphics around, changed the enemies around, created whole new storylines, which are actually pretty interesting. just because they can.